Would like to call to order the Thursday, January 8th meeting of work session for Concord City Council. Welcome, everyone. If you would, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, council members, you have copies of minutes from November 25th, December 9th, December 11th, and December 16th. Do we typically approve those at the regular meeting on Thursday or now? Great, okay. So that will be an item we will take care of on Thursday. In presentations, it is our pleasure to make a presentation of a retirement plaque recognizing Mark Rosie Kane for over 30 years of service with the City of Concord. And if I could ask him to come forward at this time. Okay. How are you, sir? Good, good. Very good. Yeah, we're looking for some profound words from you.
You don't want to know what I got to say.
Oh, but I think we really do.
You want me to go ahead and start? No.
No, I'll talk a little bit about you first, because I'll say all good things, and hopefully that will temper your comments a little bit later on. But Mark began his career with the city over 30 years ago as a member of the sewer department. Mark then transferred to Water Resources, where he worked on both construction and meter lab crews. He later transitioned to the Electric Utility Underground Division before he continued to expand his technical expertise with the city. He ultimately found his long-term home as a meter technician, where he dedicated approximately 23 years of service. Throughout his career, Mark was known for his strong work ethic and reliability. His contributions will have a lasting impact on the city, and his service is deeply appreciated. And those are very sincere, and it is certainly a pleasure to present you this plaque in recognition of 30 years of faithful, loyal, and dedicated service to the City of Concord Billing Department, dated January 1st, 2026. And so now you can say anything you want.
No, because I'm gone now. No.
Yeah.
No, I just appreciate. I just appreciate the City of Concord for the last 30 years. And I get emotional.
Certainly understandable.
I'm not a good speaker, but I just appreciate the City of Concord. And that guy back there, Keith Cooter, you just don't know how much y'all mean to me, and I just appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. And after we make our picture, then I'm going to ask you to recognize your folks that are here with you tonight. If I can keep this microphone from rolling away.
Here in the back.
If you would, please stand. Great.
And then I got my coworker Cooter and Brad Pethel back there. We worked about the same altogether too. I think about 23 years. And then D'Amica Reed, boss lady.
Okay.
She says she ain't, but she is.
Great. Well, as much as we congratulate you on your retirement, certainly your years of experience and everything you have contributed to the city will be felt as a loss. But we wish you the very best in your retirement. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes. And before you sit down, if you would give an opportunity for council members to shake your hand and congratulate you as well.
Y'all don't know it, by the way, Kane's Corner,
Great. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Okay, next I would ask if Keith Cooter Carricker would come forward for his recognition. Thank you. How are you, sir? Good, good. I'll let you hold that so you can begin preparing your speech.
All right.
as well. Keith began his career with the city over 31 years ago as part of the tree trimming crew. He later transitioned to the electric overhead and finally meter technician, a position he held for an estimated 25 years. Over the course of his career, Keith became a trusted and familiar presence, delivering outstanding service to our community. His long tenure reflects a sustained commitment to his work, and his contribution over the years have been a meaningful part of the city's service to the community. His contributions will have lasting impact on the city, and his service is deeply appreciated. And we have this retirement plaque presented to Keith Cooter Carricker in recognition of 31 years of faithful, loyal, and dedicated service to the city of Concord. Certainly, congratulations. Want to give you an opportunity to introduce your family and friends that might be here with you, as well as make any other comments you feel moved to make.
All right. I want to thank the city, and I appreciate everything y'all done for me and my family. You give me everything I got in my life right now. I want to thank my wife back there, Miss Jennifer. Not only do we work together every day, we're married.
Okay.
Double trouble.
Is that the one that the earlier was referred to as the boss man?
No.
The boss woman?
No, that's Miss D'Amica right
Okay.
there. That's the boss. Yes.
So you got two.
Yes. And then Brad is my direct supervisor, and I appreciate him. We've been together about 25 years. But I appreciate everything the city's done for me, and I appreciate all my coworkers and everything they did and all the relationships and everything. It means a lot. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Great. Thank you again. If you would take the opportunity to allow council to shake your hand as well. lot of years of service leaving all at one time, so we certainly appreciate that. So we move now to new business. I don't think we have anything under unfinished business. First up, under our informational items, is presentation of the independent auditor's report on the annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. And so I think we have a representative.
We do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to call on Kristen, our Deputy Finance Director, to come up and introduce our auditor, who's going to do the presentation to council this evening.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Jenkins. This afternoon, I have the pleasure of introducing Bao Tao. She's here from Martin Starnes and Associates. They conducted our fiscal year 25 audit, and she is here to share the results of that audit with you. Thank you.
Great.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Bao Tao, and I'm from Martin Starnes and Associates. I'll be presenting the fiscal year 2025 audit financial statements. The audit has been submitted to the local government commission, but we are awaiting approval. I will begin by going over some audit highlights. We issue an unmodified opinion on the financial statements in all federal and state programs except for Housing Choice Voucher, which is qualified. An unmodified or clean opinion is issued when the auditor can state without reservation that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in conformity with GAAP. The qualified opinion is when the auditor has identified misstatements or issues, but the misstatements or issues are not pervasive. The financial statements are still largely reliable despite the identified issues. We will discuss this in more detail later in the presentation. There was a new implementation in fiscal 25 called GASB 101, compensated absences. GASB 101 is to record sick leave as a liability. This slide shows the available fund balance in the general fund. In 2025, the available fund balance for the city was 50.8%. The LGC minimum fund balance available percentage is 25% for units with general fund expenditures above $10 million. This slide shows the general fund's summary. The revenue increased by $29 million or 21.9%, mainly due to an increase in added value taxes. The expenditure increased by $8 million or 6.1%, mainly due to increase in public safety. This slide shows the top 3 revenues in the general fund. Total revenue is $164.8 million. The top 3 comprise of $140.3 million, or 85% of the total revenue. Other revenues included unrestricted intergovernmental, license and permits, and investments. This slide shows the added value taxes revenue. It increased by $22.4 million, or 29%. In the current year, increase is due to increase in property values. In fiscal 25, property values are $23 million, which is an increase of 46.28% from prior year. This slide shows the other tax revenue. It increased by $2.1 million, or 7% in the current year, mainly due to increase in local option sales tax. This slide shows the restricted intergovernmental revenues. It increased by $2 million, or 34% in the current year, due to increase in grant proceeds and police grants. This slide shows the top 3 expenditures in the general fund. Total expenditure is $127.7 million. The top 3 comprise of $103 million, or 81%. Other expenses include cultural recreation, planning and community development, capital outlay, and debt services. This slide shows the public safety expenditures. It increased by $10.3 million in the current year, or 16.7%, and mainly due to an increase in salary and capital expenditures in the police and fire department. This slide shows the public works expenditures. It increased by $1.5 million in the current year, or 7.5%, and mainly due to increase in salaries and capital expenditures in the solid waste department. This slide shows the general government expenditures. It decreased by $8.1 million in the current year, or negative 42.2%. Decrease is due to a large decrease in the non-departmental. This slide shows the quick ratio for the electric fund. Quick ratio over the past 3 years were 14.94 in 2023, 12.81 in 2024, and 17.47 in 2025. The LGC is typically concerned with units that have a quick ratio below 1. No concerns with electric fund. This slide shows the quick ratio for water and sewer. This includes the water fund and the wastewater fund combined and reported on the LGC data input sheet. The quick ratio over the past 3 years were 28.73 in 2023, 25.6 in 2024, 17.44 in 2025. The LGC is typically concerned with units that have a quick ratio below 1. No concerns with water and sewer. We tested the following 7 major programs that are shown above. For the compliance findings, 2025-001, there was a material weakness in housing choice voucher. The city did not follow procedures to ensure the proper eligibility determination were made and documented. 2025-002, there was a material weakness and a material non-compliance for housing choice voucher. The city did not follow procedures to ensure that the housing quality standards were corrected, or subsequent procedures to stop housing assistance payments were not enforced. 2025-003, there was a material weakness and a material non-compliance for public housing operating fund. The city did not follow procedures to ensure the proper eligibility determination were made and documented. The details of the findings can be found at the end of the audit report. Along with the submission of the audit to the LGC, we are required to complete a data input sheet with various financial information. Kristen reviews and certifies this template to be submitted. This template analyzes the data and provides results as performance indicators. As performance indicators range from deficient fund balance, statutory violations, and significant findings. Water and sewer operating net income, excluding depreciation, including debt service principal and interest, is negative $1.1 million. The LGC is concerned with negative net income. This is a performance indicator that will require for the city to respond to the LGC within 60 days of the auditor's board presentation. The city has a stable property tax valuation and collection percentage. The city met the general fund balance available as of percentage of expenditures, which is 50.8% in the fiscal 25. Minimum is 25%. The water and sewer unrestricted cash divided by total expense, excluding depreciation, including debt service, principal, and interest, is 201.16%. The LGC is concerned with less than 60%. Therefore, no concerns. Water and sewer capital assets condition ratio is 53.06%. LGC is concerned with less than or equal to 50%, therefore no concerns. Electric operating net income excluding depreciation, including debt service, principal, and interest is $23 million. LGC is concerned with a negative net income, therefore no concerns. This concludes my audit presentation. Thank you for allowing us to continue as your auditors. We look forward to working with you years to come. Are there any questions?
Can you go back to the compliance? slide?
Compliance, yes.
So beside Federal Transit Cluster, there's two numbers. Am I reading that? Why is that?
I'm sorry.
On the third one, the Federal Transit Cluster, there's two different numbers.
Yes, that has two different assisted listing numbers.
Okay. Okay.
So if I may ask, in a nutshell, is what you're telling us that we're in really good shape, we're in so-so shape, or we're in bad shape? It sounds like we're in really good shape, but I want to make sure that I'm hearing what you're saying. So if you had to analyze the city in one sentence, what would you say?
I would say in a good shape, but Kristen, do you want to explain? Other than the compliance, I guess.
Yeah, so, excuse me, as Val was explaining with the LGC form that we complete, all of those performance indicators were positive except for that one with water, which generally relates to their new debt that came on board, so they had new debt service. So those performance indicators are positive, yes. So we're meeting all of the rest of those, and so we'll get that response into the LGC within 60 days. Betty, just to elaborate on your question about transit, there's two separate funding sources for transit. One is for more of the operations, where another of the grants is more of vehicles or capital purchases, and that's the reason there's two numbers. Does that answer both your questions? Okay.
Okay, any additional questions from council?
Just, can you please go back to the second point, the Section 8 housing vouchers? You said there was a finding based on quality standards and documentation. Can you please go back to that?
It's this one right
Yeah.
here.
So those are programming findings related to the eligibility of tenants. And then the housing quality standards is related to inspections, and I think re-inspections more specifically, if you remember correctly. And if you would like, so the audit report that Bao is referring to, the annual comprehensive financial report, is available on our website. And at the back of that report lists these findings in detail. And if you have any further questions on those, feel free to reach out to me if you have other questions once you read those.
I just want to say these audits can be painful, and sometimes they reveal to us things we don't want to hear. But I just want to give thanks to our staff for making this a smooth process and for getting us to the place we are right now. So thank you all very much.
Great. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, the only thing I would disagree with is you say they're quite frequently painful. I'd say they're always painful, but Jennifer?
Isn't there a summary at the back of the audit, if I remember correctly? Am I dreaming that? Or is that what you're talking about, that there's the response or there's any sort of feedback and then there's the response piece of that?
Yeah, so at the back of the audit is related to the grants and the compliance that are listed
we're
here in all the
referencing.
programs.
Okay.
So the findings will be related there, will be listed there, as well as an action plan that Mary and her
Perfect.
team have listed as a response of how are they planning to address these findings and to get the city within compliance.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was
Yeah.
looking for, is I knew there was like question and answer. I knew that wasn't
Yes,
the proper
corrective
term for
action
it.
plan is
So
a
that's on the
response.
website too, just scroll
Yep.
all the way to the
All
bottom.
the,
'cause
all the
that's
way back to like
very
200 and
lengthy.
some pages at the back.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome.
Okay, any additional questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We have a number of items that will be for our Thursday meeting, including a public hearing on a matter of closing a right-of-way, as well as another annexation request. So now we will move to discussion. Yes, sir. We certainly can. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go ahead and have staff reports on the two items I just mentioned. The first one being the public hearing that's scheduled for Thursday on the matter of closing the right-of-way of two unopened areas of the intersection of Hermitage Drive and Winfield Boulevard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll call on Fred now to come up, senior planner in the planning department. He's going to cover the first two public hearings tonight. He'll provide the staff report to council and answer any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Happy New Year, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Jenkins. Once again, the item before you is a right-of-way closure petition. And council will remember that this item was brought to you last month as you made a resolution of intent to consider this matter further at a public hearing, which is scheduled for Thursday of this week. As a reminder, the right-of-way in question is an unopened and unimproved 3,400 square foot area located on the southwest quadrant of the Hermitage Road and Winfield Boulevard intersection. Carolyn Tucker is the applicant for this petition and is also the owner of the adjacent properties immediately surrounding the area of closure. As the sole adjoining property owner, Ms. Tucker has been notified and briefed on the ownership requirements of the general statutes and the impact of the closure. And this next slide is an aerial shot that shows the approximate area of the proposed closure as indicated by the red crosshatch area. And once more and in brief, the applicant is the owner of the three parcels immediately adjacent to the area of closure. There are no utilities present in the closure area, and planning staff did not receive any objections from any other departments who reviewed this request. In terms of council's next steps, council should conduct a public hearing and either adopt or deny a resolution for closure of the right-of-way in question. And I'll gladly field any questions that the council may have at this time.
Great. Any questions from council? All right, I think you can proceed to the next one.
Let me grab it. All right, good afternoon again, Mayor Morris, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Jenkins. The item before you is a voluntary annexation petition for three parcels totaling approximately 13.4 acres located at 7201 and 7205 Trail Road in a portion of 508 Cessna Road. These properties are owned by Calmac Company, Vulcan Lands Incorporated, and Gerald and Kimberly Henson. This application is submitted on behalf of these owners by Suzanne Todd. The proposed annexation would be for the extension of Vulcan's existing overburden storage area. The zoning map here shows the three properties located there in the red cross-hatched area, and they are all currently zoned Cabarrus County Countryside Residential. If the annexation is approved, the request for zoning would be to City of Concord I-2 General Industrial with an additional land use plan amendment to industrial employment. The land use plan amendment is necessary because the proposed I-2 zoning isn't consistent with the current suburban neighborhood land use category. And toward that end, council should be aware that this case would be coming back to you at a point in a later date for consideration for the formal land use plan amendment request. If the council approves the annexation petition, the properties will become a part of District 5. And as with all annexations, both internal and external entities were notified and given the opportunity to provide comments and feedback on the proposal, and no comments were returned. Additionally, adjacent property owners, recognized neighborhoods, and HOAs were all notified via mail of the proposed annexation by the planning department staff. letters dated December 22nd of last year, as well as with an advertisement run in the Independent Tribune dated December 27th of last year. In regards to council's next steps, consider the annexation request, to adopt or deny the annexation, and if adopted, consideration before the Planning and Zoning Commission for the recommendation of rezoning to I-2 General Industrial. I'll gladly take any questions that the council may have at this time.
Great, thank you. Any questions?
For the sake of the council, the mayor and I had an opportunity to visit this spot for 2 hours yesterday. It's an impressive, phenomenal place of putting together, taking these rocks and churning them up and using them. This simply makes sense. And for them to want to voluntarily annex, that makes sense also. So I saw no problem yesterday driving through, looking at all this property.
Right.
Steve, do you have an opinion about what you saw?
Absolutely. I think our time there yesterday was well spent. It was extremely educational. It was kind of ironic that at the beginning of the conversation, I think Andy and I both said simultaneously, why do you want to be annexed? You know, why do you want to voluntarily pay city taxes? And of course, there was a good explanation, you know, as to both their responsibility to the community as well as some of the technicalities regarding their permit process. We had extensive conversations. I think we learned a great deal about the definition of overburden and what this property would be used for, what the long-term implications would be, which we both had quite a few questions about that. I think from an environmental standpoint, there are quite a few people that would appreciate the conservation piece that will occur on this property, as well as the potential future uses, which are pretty amazing when we talked about potential for a future water source reservoir. We didn't get into as much detail on that because I think we quickly determined that all of that would happen long after we have departed this earth. Yeah, yeah, but it was, you know, I was very impressed with their corporate responsibility to the community and to the decisions, you know, and I think I can't think of a question we left unanswered regarding any blasting that they do, how they monitor it, what the implications are to adjacent property owners, and, you know, the folks involved in this process are all adjacent property owners. So, you know, they did a pretty thorough job of answering all their questions, and I think they plan to be present to answer any additional questions at the public hearing on Thursday. So it was a very good experience, I thought. Any other questions or comments from council?
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Did you receive any feedback from the adjacent property owner?
No, ma'am. Planning staff received no comments, no calls, no emails regarding this proposed annexation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Fred, I have one more. So I'm looking at the map. There's no like ingress egress on this except through the Vulcan property, correct?
That's
It's just
correct.
an extension of where they're already coming in off of Poplar Tent Road?
That is correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, some very extensive berms and other regulations that they comply with. I think a 50-foot undisturbed buffer all the way around the property, even before they construct any berms. So it is pretty regulated.
And Jennifer, essentially what they said is by doing this, they will have direct access to their other property. And so there'll be many fewer trucks on our streets, on our road. They will keep all of the transportation on their property and will have no impact on our streets and everything.
Yeah, and I think the alternative is on this overburden, which is the land that's removed, topsoil, trees to expose this rock. Were this property not available, the alternative would be loading that up and transporting it on public highways away from the site, which obviously would have a much bigger impact from a traffic standpoint as well as wear and tear on the roads as well. So yeah, it's very well thought out. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, sir. And we move now to staff reports on the public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance amending Article 3, zoning amendments and hearing procedures, Article 5, subdivision plats, site plans, and construction documents, and Article 14, definition of the Concord Development Ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I call on Monterey at this time from our planning department. She's our development review manager. She's going to provide the staff report to council and answer any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, Mayor Morris, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Jenkins. As the mayor mentioned, I will be talking about text amendments in Article 3, 5, and 14. So to provide a little bit of background, over the last few years, we've seen an uptick in conversations amongst the development community, including their hiring professionals, as well as having to get our legal involved, just trying to determine how we calculate what needs to come back before planning and zoning versus what staff can do administratively. There are also several conversations over the last year where we've noticed that we needed to add some procedural changes to when minor plats require site plans. And then, as well as just update, cross-reference, and regulations. Specifically, we'll be speaking about the administrative amendments, plats, and construction process, and definitions. Article 3. This particular section basically implies that there are certain small things that the administrative amendments can do, but the important part before you is changes that are not considered similar and things that would have to go back before planning and zoning to change the already approved rezoning plans. As you will see, sections 1 through 8, all of the black are currently in our code. Any of the red and blue outlines are things that we've added to provide clarity. You will also see that cross-reference in Article 5 later. Article 5.4.9 is the large substantive portion of what planning is choosing to change. As I mentioned, you will see this exact articulation on the slide previously, so we're copying and pasting to ensure that in both portions of the code, we are articulating clearly what we can do administratively versus what in plain sight you would have to take back before planning and zoning if somebody else made changes to the approved rezoning plan. And then, as I mentioned in our background, you will also see that we are taking out the 10% calculations. As I had mentioned, it's been very difficult, especially over the last 3 years, as we've seen an uptick in conversations of properties being sold with approved rezoning plans and developers wanting to make some modifications as to how you calculate the 10% change. So this just makes it so much easier that we don't have to address that anymore. Article 5.1.1B1 talks about the minor subdivisions, which we call final minor plats. This particular piece adds a memorialization of a new process that we've decided where in these specific instances, site plans will be required with your final minor plat. That ensures that all departments get what they need, whether it be sidewalk, curb and gutter are seen, utilities, et cetera. So 5.1.2 is just a change in the general statute. Therefore, it has been reflected here to update the language. And these next slides are in working closely with our engineering department. We went ahead and brought these changes as well. Our engineering director, Jackie Deal, is here if you have any specific questions. I will just be going over the language changes. So as you can see in the first piece right here, number 3 is new language. It is procedural in nature that they are adding to the code to have it documented. 5.7.2 is again where they are just adding language that they have been doing for numerous years to go ahead and put that in the policy so we have it documented where anyone and everyone has clarity on procedural changes. 5.7.3, the inspection. These are also process changes that they wanted to go ahead and add in the code to make sure that it was clear and concise across all avenues. And 5.7.4.e is the exact same processes that we've seen that they are adding to the code. And then they've updated processes in number 2, 4, 5, and 6, as you can see as well. And then 5.7.9 is their last update. It basically just reiterates some of the processes that are changed, and this is reflecting those changes. And then circling back to Article 14, this is planning's last substantive change, and this is aligning the general statute change that we made in Article 5 and to fix the definition here in Article 14. These text amendments were brought before Planning and Zoning Commission in December of 2025, so last month. The top 2 bullet points were unanimously approved by Planning and Zoning. Basically, that it is consistent with our 2030 land use plan, and that it is reasonable amongst character of the community, laws and statutes, and maintain staff's ability to administer the code. Next steps before you would be to consider the text amendments to the Concord Development Ordinance, otherwise known as the CDO, to approve a statement of consistency, and make a motion to approve or deny the amendments. This closes my presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Monterey,
Yes, ma'am.
it's a lot of reading, just gonna let you know.
Yes.
I read through all of it, and I won't say that I understand all of it.
That's the unfortunate part, but yes, ma'am.
I do have a question for you.
Sure.
And as you and I know, because you help me so much, developers call in and they say, this process is hard, it's convoluted, we make a change, we have to go back. Now, I'm going to preface that by also saying that sometimes my children push back on rules and guidelines because they don't like them.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that there's not a reason for it, but I guess my question would be, because I know there's a lot of discussions at the Raleigh level of we need to do everything we can to make housing quick, go through all the things, right? Do you feel like that this clears up, that this is kind of where I'm a little bit foggy that you can help me with? Like, the reason, does it clear up kind of some of the things that we are doing and you still feel like it, I'm not going to use the word easier, because I don't think anything in this process is easy, but do you see what I'm asking?
No, for
Because
sure.
we get a lot of feedback, you and I both do on this, and I just want to make sure that we're doing and holding the standards that we need to hold, and then being aware that for some people, it's a hard process to go through. Does that make sense
It
what I'm
definitely
asking?
does, and I think to provide clarity to that, the 10% changes, which you'll see in Article 5, are basically talking about 10% of the alignment of different parcels. So if you move to shift the building a little bit, if you're gonna pick up a purchase that someone is trying to sell, that they've gotten approved, or roads or open space, trying to calculate that became, to your point, a very expensive, significant challenge as to how staff interpreted it versus the developer, and then
Right.
versus their engineer. Sometimes we've had to consult legal, their legal's gotten involved. So yes, that does add a lot of maybe potentially unnecessary time and cost. So by taking that out and providing additional language that flushes out what you have to go back to planning and zoning for, I think does still keep us to, hold true to the rules and regulations to maintain what the city of Concord is looking for, also while adding unnecessary burden on staff and on the developers. So I think we're landing in a good place. Thank you.
Great. Other question? Yes, sir.
Jennifer, I would just say as well, at the front of the presentation Monterey gave about some of the administrative approvals, that will cut down on the time, because now there's a lot of things that anytime it's changed has to come back to council. And depending on the timing of your next meeting, that could be 2 or 3 weeks down the road. By council adopting some of those changes, it allows staff to make some of those changes, still consistent with council's guidance, but without having to come back and delay the developer another week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get some very minor changes made. So that will speed up the process. But to your point, we do want to maintain the standards of good development in our community. Sometimes that takes time.
thank you for adding those comments, because that's what I most frequently hear from developers. We're more concerned about time is money.
Yes.
You know, how long it takes, without
definitely, I think-
compromising standards.
100%, and I totally agree with what Mr. Payne said, yes.
Great, yes. Other questions or comments? And of course, any of the developers that are impacted by this will have an opportunity to come and speak at this public hearing on Thursday, right?
Yes, sir, and I think
Yes.
a couple have reached out asking because they are in this 10% calculation turmoil, if you will. And so when they had asked about when they needed to come back to planning and zoning or what they needed to provide, we did make them aware of this conversation, and they
Right.
did seem interested in a positive way.
Excellent. If there are no more questions, thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, we move now to presentations of petitions and requests. First up is consider authorizing the city manager to execute a contract between the Concord ABC Board and the City of Concord Police Department.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Chief Hughes is up. He's going to provide this report to council this evening, or this request, I should say. Take any questions you may have. So Chief Hughes?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolczynski, Ms. Jenkins. The item before you is for a proposed update to the ABC law enforcement agreement between the Concord ABC Board and the City of Concord. The city's current agreement was back from 1996, so it's been a number of years since that agreement has been updated. Under a separate, longer-standing agreement, the ABC Board currently remits 5% of net sales to the city to support ABC law enforcement. Under that structure, the cities received $178,300 in FY '24 and $168,059 in FY '25, and that's in exchange for funding the police department's ABC officer, the one ABC officer. So under the revised agreement that's before you, it would provide for a more defined, sustainable funding model, and that would be $200,000 annually that would be broken into equal payments every 90 days. And also allows for an annual 5% escalation to account for rising personnel operational cost. In exchange for funding, the increased funding, the police department would assign 2 full-time sworn officers exclusively to ABC enforcement. This would require the addition of 1 police officer, sworn police officer, to the department's current authorized strength so that we could ensure proper staffing and coverage. And our recommendation, our request is for authorization for the city manager to execute the updated agreement between the ABC Board of Concord and City of Concord. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions for Chief Hughes?
I have some. Oddly enough, I was telling Lloyd today that someone tagged me on Nextdoor Neighbors wanting me to explain how this works, and I didn't really know how it works. So are you telling me that 5% of all ABC sales in the city are returned to the City of Concord to pay for to pay for 1 officer?
No, so the original agreement, which was back in '96, was addressing a requirement that the ABC Board has some type of law enforcement. They could go in the direction of having their own law enforcement, or they could contract with, in our case, with the city.
Okay.
Which is what they did, and I think the sum in the original contract was like $16,000 and some change a year for 50% of 1 police officer's time.
Okay.
And then there was some language in there that adjusted it based off the actual amount of hours that were worked.
Okay.
This ties back into the city code that was changed in 2023 through Raleigh that established it at a 5% rate.
Okay.
And it's net sales, so it's not like what they gross. It is after all of their expenses and their capital projects and everything else. It's that 5% is for law enforcement.
Right.
There's other funds that are designated for the city, and then there's other funds that are designated for Cabarrus County as well.
Okay.
Those are in addition to this 5% of funds.
So how many officers do you dedicate to just one?
Just one.
And so like, let's just say the ABC store on Davidson Drive, do they call you and say, it's going to be a busy Saturday night, we'd like to have an officer? Is
So
that kind of how, and then there might the same thing might happen at Publix, the one out by Publix? I mean, so how do you get one officer to, there's what, 5 or 6?
Right, so what happens typically is that one officer is responsible for all the compliance checks. They're making sure all the alcohol establishments in the city are compliant with ABC regulations. They work with the ABC stores to try to identify strategies that could help prevent theft from happening or internal theft that may be happening. There's all those, that's their focus, is working towards prevention of alcohol violations and then addressing any alcohol violations that happen. That doesn't preclude them from calling 911 or asking for assistance, because obviously there's alcohol establishments that operate hours outside of what one person could handle. So
Right.
the police department itself does provide additional resources beyond just that, but this would, currently we have one police officer that's their job.
Not necessarily security.
Correct, not necessarily security. There's a
Okay.
whole nother strategy that we have in place to help
Right.
reduce theft and other issues at the ABC stores themselves.
Gotcha, I understand. And so this $200,000 increase, that's going to be what we are paid from the ABC to provide that officer?
That is correct, to provide those two officers.
Two officers.
And then, again, it does have a provision for a 5% increase each year for the increased operational cost.
Okay, all right, that makes good sense. Thank you so much for the clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So this is not costing the city money. There is going to be a return based on this $200,000 and the 5%, or no?
So there is a cost associated with staffing police officers, obviously, in addition to salaries and benefits. The current salary and benefit for a brand-new police officer annually is $86,962. So if you looked at it in that light, the cost is around 170-ish something $1,000 annually. But the reality is that there's going to be additional cost because it's not going to be the brand-new police officer that's working the ABC assignment. So there's going to be additional cost, but the majority, the lion's share of that cost would be covered through this agreement, yes. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just trying to understand, so that variance of what's not covered, the city would cover for those extra resources, correct?
Right, so anything that would exceed that 200,000. So if the salaries of the persons that are assigned are greater than that, it could be that. The maintenance and upkeep of vehicles, the fuel that's associated with the cars, if it exceeds, if whatever the costs are exceed that 200,000, then that would be something we, the city, would be responsible for. However, I think it's important to note also that the police officer, having the police officers is a benefit beyond just the ABC stores as well. They're able to help us with alcohol enforcement. They're a subject matter expert that's able to provide guidance to other police officers. They help us to work underage campaigns that address alcohol or potential alcohol violations in other areas. So there's a lot of other benefits that come along with this beyond just dedicated to the ABC board. And so there is truthfully some responsibility to the city, I think, as well for that. I mean, it does help us overall offset some of that cost.
John?
Chief, I've seen this for quite a few years, and it's impressive what we do with this, and, I think it's a great thing. The access training they'll receive, I assume, is from ALE, correct?
Yes, they go to the ALE's basic enforcement school, so they learn the more detailed nuances of alcohol enforcement, because it is different than your general law enforcement responsibility.
Will this be a rotational, or will you have two dedicated?
So maintaining the same model that we have now, we have a police officer who's dedicated to it. They go through the training because that does take time to become proficient at that job. And so they typically will stay for several years, and then they may decide they want to go do something else in the police department, whether that's traffic enforcement or criminal investigations. They want to be a supervisor. So there is movement that happens over time, but typically we get several years out of a person who's assigned to ABC role.
Okay, thank you. I think it's good also to maintain those relationships with ALE, and it's, when we have a checkpoint, et cetera, it's good to have, co-enforcement through all the agencies involved.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Other questions or comments? So based on what I'm hearing from you, if we have a complaint from a citizen and they say this convenience store out on ABC Street is selling alcohol to minors on a consistent basis, then it would be part of the responsibilities of this individual to devise a plan to make sure that that was not true, or that if it was true, corrective action would be taken. Am I interpreting correctly?
That is correct. And then depending on what the size of the issue is, this would be our point person to work with the state's ALE, alcohol law enforcement.
Right.
To help address whatever those issues may be. But yes, that's their job.
And so we would be using these individuals that are funded by this $200,000 for the majority to accomplish these tasks that really are not related to ABC sales at all.
Right.
If it's beer and wine, and what would happen at convenience stores, which I wouldn't venture to guess how many of those we would have in the city of Concord, but it's quite a few.
Quite a few, yes.
Yeah.
And there's other things too. They do like our current ABC officer, he does all the research on permit requests. So when there's a permitting process that planning works through that has a whole lot of other elements outside of just law enforcement, for the law enforcement piece, that's what he does. He goes through and checks the applicant's criminal histories, checks the location, makes sure that the physical location is within ordinance and within law to make sure that it is compliant. And then the police, my signature is that it submits to the state for and through planning for their review and approval or recommended denial of a alcohol permit.
Right. And so if the local ABC board decided that they wanted to, you mentioned earlier, a private service or something might be an option for them, then the city would not benefit from all these other services. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
So it sounds like a good deal for us, to me.
Yes, sir. It has been beneficial from my perspective since 1996. I think prior to 1996, they had their own version of a private force or something. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, and so understand if you don't have the answer to this question, but how many ABC stores we had in 1996 versus today?
Two? I'd have to say two.
Two additional?
When we had a total of two.
We had two back then, and today we have?
I don't even know off the top of my head.
Eight.
We have 8.
Yeah, so that's pretty substantial increase.
Quite a change since 1996.
Right, yeah. Okay,
And
any additional?
This was a mutual, I was just going to say, this was definitely a mutual agreement to revise this 1996 agreement.
Right. Yeah, and I forgot we had a member of the ABC board with us, or I would have called him up and tried to ask him some hard questions. Great. Any additional questions?
Next time, lead with the benefits.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we consider adopting updated rules and regulations for the Concord Paget Regional Airport. I think we have several items in that category.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Kyle is here. He's our FBO manager out at the airport. He's going to handle items 2, 3, 4, and 5 for council this evening. Take any questions you may have. So Kyle, if you would.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Jenkins. First item 2, is to consider updating rules and regulations for the airport. This is what pilots follow in addition to anybody else doing business at the airport. It keeps things safe. They haven't been updated quite some time. The FAA encourages us to update them every 5 to 10 years. Our last update was in the mid-2000s, so they're well overdue. Outside counsel has reviewed these rules and regulations, and they are constructed to kind of give us an extra guidance to comply with federal grant assurances as well. If anybody has any questions. For item number 3, we're going to ask for approval on a change order For the apron and taxi lane rehab project, when we were kind of doing more work out at the airport, we determined that there was a need to enlarge the repair area. The contractor is requesting an additional 15 days for this project. The project has been reviewed and recommended by our independent engineer. This is a NCDOT grant-funded project. There'll be no additional cost to the city for this. Are there any questions on item 3? Item number 4, we will be updating our minimum standards as well. Our minimum standards kind of keeps the elevated service at our airport. So the FAA encourages these when we accept the grant money as well. Once again, that these were last updated in the mid-2000s. The FAA encourages updates every 5 to 10 years on these. And it was also reviewed by outside counsel in addition to the rules and regulations. If there are any questions on item 4. Then going on to item 5, we are requesting approval to proceed with professional service agreement with Wilson Groups and Architects for the design of our new hangar in common. This hangar in common is one of those big bulk hangars that you see at the airport. It's not a row of T hangars or anything like that. But approximately 40,000 square feet. The FAA, this will be a FAA grant-funded project. It requires us to prepare an independent fee estimate. That IFE was at $87,075, $888. And then we came in about 27 grand under that budget. The project, once again, will be funded 100% with no match required, and the funding is coming from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law Grant. Are there any questions on any of the items that I presented to you?
I have one, if I may. Just out of curiosity, the rules that you're talking about up there, let's see, well, I lost my place. I think that I need to probably put my glasses back on. I think that was item number 2. So give an example of something that would negatively interfere with the safe, orderly, and efficient use of the airport.
So and a good example is a problem that we kind of have right now is aircraft would be blocking different taxi lanes, stuff like that. So there's no egress out of an area in case of emergency. So by having, for instance, that part of one of our rules, people will have to keep the egress free and clear. A prime example is our Fire Station 6 is between 2 hangars. If aircraft block that egress, the fire trucks can't get out in the event of emergency. So that's just one example of the rules that we have.
Okay. I was just curious, like I was there in the spring when Vice President Vance came to town. That was a big deal.
Yes. It's
And there were
exciting.
lots of people, and I was thinking, when reading that, I'm thinking, would that be the kind of thing that you would prohibit from happening there because it
No.
does interfere? Or is that considered an interference?
What, like when the VIP flies in?
Yeah,
No,
well,
that's
like
just-
that was a whole big to-do. There were people there and dignitaries and cars and Secret Service and all
Believe it
that
or
kind
not,
of
that's
thing.
regular business for us at the airport. There are
Okay.
VIPs that fly in and out there every day almost.
Oh, great, that's very interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Other questions? And so if I heard you correctly on item 5, you're talking about building a 40,000-foot hangar
Yes.
at no cost to the city.
It'll be funded by grant money, yes.
Yeah. And then what kind of a waiting list do you have for hangar space currently?
Long. It is very long. We probably have at least 60 to 70 aircraft across all of our different size of hangars.
Right.
It is long, so it's well overdue.
Yeah. And so you're going to build a hangar, 40,000 square feet. You got a waiting list of people already wanting to rent space. And so who gets the rent?
We don't know yet. So rent money, rent
Yeah.
income, it'll go right to the airport.
So they build a new hangar. It doesn't cost us any money, but we get the proceeds of all the rent.
Yes, sir.
That sounds like an unrealistic federal deal to me. Yeah.
And they buy our fuel, yes, and
Right.
services and everything else that we
Yeah.
sell.
Well,
Just say thank you.
yes. Yeah, I think you're right.
All the big aircraft, probably 3 or 4 big aircraft, like the NASCAR team flies. For the smaller aircraft, we can probably fit 20 if we really wanted to. It'll be filled on day 1.
Right. Yeah, great. Thank you very
you.
much. Okay, next up is item 6, consider authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a contract with J.D. Goodrum Company Incorporated for the construction of the Laurel Park Pump Station elimination.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Jackie, our engineering director for the city, she's going to handle items 6 and 7 this evening, present those to council and take any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Ms. Kolchinsky, Mr. Payne, Ms. Jenkins. Today, we are presenting the Laurel Park Pump Station elimination. We would like to award this contract to J.D. Goodrum. The project consists of nearly 1,300 linear feet of 8-inch sanitary sewer. We received bids December 18th of 2025. 3 bids were received. J.D. Goodrum was the lowest bidder at $849,000, and the contract duration is 120 days. So I'm happy to take questions on that item.
So does this eliminate, I used to live in Laurel Park, and let me tell you, this is a topic of discussion in that neighborhood. Will this eliminate the kind of right-of-way, all of that area back there, or are you just replacing what's there? I didn't have clarity on that, so.
So there still will be sanitary sewer easement
Okay,
back there.
back there, yep.
Right, and we did obtain a little bit more additional easement earlier in the year through our real estate acquisition phase. So that will not be able to turn into a usable area.
Right.
For other purposes.
How will this benefit? That's what I need an explanation on.
So the benefit is the maintenance that we do as far as staff time, replacement. This, from what I understand, is about 20 to 25 years old, so complete rehab would be needed at some point, which is very costly. So the payback on this is about 10 to 11 years. Staff is out there weekly cleaning things up, so.
So they won't see them as much.
True.
Which is good. No, I'm saying that's a good thing for staff, but then also for the individuals that like to talk to your staff while they're out there. So just to, from an education perspective, I'm just trying to understand that piece of it.
I know Jeff does a really good job of like science with Jeff, but yeah, eliminating
That's
this
over my head
when
anyway,
when
but-
it's gravity simplifies the system so much from a maintenance perspective. So new infrastructure that's out there that was completed allows this connection to be made. So our process to treat gets so much easier because it
And I
gets
think
there.
what I'm looking for more is from the neighbor perspective. Like, that's where I get the calls, right? Is, hey, we're out there a lot. Where, like, I want to understand just from, so in plain language for me to, when I talk to these individuals, to say, this is how it's beneficial. This is why we're making the investment from a city perspective, because we're good stewards of the money, but also from, does that make sense? What
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
trying to ask? Okay.
So every week, we have to send somebody out there to check, verify everything's still working. We also have to go out weekly to jet and clean. There's a trash basket there that gets stopped up and it causes backups in the sewer. So they will not see those people anymore once this project is completed. There have also been complaints in the past based on the large equipment that comes in and out. It's between 2 residential houses. Breaking driveways, turn radiuses, all that kind of stuff. They will not see those trucks like that anymore on a regular basis. So we will be ghost in that area, hopefully.
That's what I needed. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Other questions? And so I think that based on what we heard from Kyle just a minute ago, we're going to measure all other investments to see if it measures up to that level. So I'm just kidding. I'm not going to hold you to that standard. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much. And you've got the next item.
All right, the next item is to consider authorizing the city manager to negotiate a change order with Cinderella Partners for up to $250,000 and utilize retained earnings from the golf course to pay for the additional cost. So we're currently in a renovation at the Rocky River Clubhouse. The original contract amount was $879,000, which included almost $80,000 in contingency. During construction, several conditions that were not included in the original scope were discovered, including areas of deterioration that needed repair or replacement. So to address these issues and to ensure that the building envelope on the outside is completely durable and low maintenance, the amount of $250,000 is requested. This will allow us to upgrade some additional windows, a door, the cupola section, replace some vinyl exterior, remove and replace some rotted wood that was discovered when we took off the original siding. Let's see, we're replacing some aluminum sheeting, and termite damage and some mold remediation was identified during construction, which will be addressed as part of this change order.
So, and if I may, Jackie, I'll just add to that because I know the question may come up. All of these monies, including the original contract itself, is not coming from taxpayer dollars. This is all profits that the golf course itself has made over time that we have held in reserve that are restricted. We can't just use them for anything. They were earned at the golf course through rounds of golf and events that were played, so we have to restrict that to how we spend that money. So this is where that money's coming from. So no taxpayer dollars are going to this. That's why this makes, in my opinion, a really easy decision for council to continue to support the infrastructure that belongs to the city.
Not quite as good a deal as the hangar at the airport, but close. Yes. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up, we have consider adopting a resolution authorizing an eminent domain action for a parcel located at 145 Hemlock Street, and I think Valerie's going to cover that item and the next one.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening. So we have talked about this acquisition of these two properties for quite some time now, actually. This is the formal step that gives the legal department the permission to begin the legal process for these acquisitions. And these are 145 Hemlock and 75 Young Street. These properties appear, from all appearances, have been completely abandoned by the record title holders for many, many years. Taxes are not being paid on them, and this action would be to bring those properties back into the tax base if they're sold out, or in any event, they're going to be utilized for affordable housing purposes. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I think on several different levels, this is a very important and very good thing for us to do. It's kind of a new approach for us.
It is.
But we're going to see how it goes, but I think it could be very positive.
Just sort of as an informational thing, I saw an article recently that Detroit had a really bad problem with blighted property, and they have brought the number of parcels with blighted property from something like 50,000 parcels down to about 1,000 using similar tactics.
So on this particular piece of property, and the same for the next one, there are past due taxes that are due on these properties, probably a number of years.
Yes, sir.
So how would that compare with the value of $45,000? Do you know right off, if you don't understand?
I don't have the tax value right in front of me, but it's the taxes that are owed are less than the tax value, the assessed tax value. So the tax value is what we will use for these two properties for our deposit. When we go to court, we're required to place a deposit with the clerk of court that is as close to the value of the property as we can get it without, necessarily getting an appraiser out there. Although we can also do that if we choose to do it. So when we file our paperwork at the courthouse, the county's attorney, presumably, will also file his answer at the courthouse. And as part of the settlement of the case process, the county will get the taxes and it's city and county taxes, but they'll go to the county, right, because the county processes the city's taxes too. So there will be some tax collection aspect of this. Any deposit, so we're assuming that nobody's going to come forward to try to claim this deposit. If they do, honestly, it would be very costly for them to prosecute that because these properties are sitting in estates that are 50, 60, 75 years old. So they would have to go back, they would have to hire an estate's attorney and go back and go through not just the estate of the owner of record whose name is on the deed, but every heir of that owner of record till the present day, which would cost $100,000 or more to get through all of that properly. So it just isn't, the value of the property would be far exceeded by the cost of trying to prosecute all of that paperwork, because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And so by virtue of following this procedure, we now have the opportunity to improve the neighborhood and the value
Yes, sir.
of the neighborhood
Surrounding,
properties.
yes.
Because right now, it is in a deteriorating state. And I'm sure that, and there's no other solution to correct all these other violations, deterioration, abandonment, probably.
Even just the issue of overgrown, grass and weeds and brush and things, because that invites mosquitoes and rodents, and that gets your feral cat colony going. And I mean, it can just really snowball, and code enforcement can't be everywhere all the time.
Right. Yeah, so I'm surprised that we're only doing 2.
That's all the money we have, sir.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, but this is something that I would assume would be very popular with these neighborhoods.
I would think so.
Finally, a solution to this.
And I would understand and almost expect there to be some skepticism, at least at first. But we're going to follow through on our word, and these properties are going to be used for affordable housing. And it says that in the resolution, and it's going to say that in the lawsuit. So that's going to be enforceable.
Correct. Okay, other questions for Valerie? And then I think you've got a second one.
And the second one is exactly the same as the first one, 75 Young Street. And it's just your formal approval that tells me go ahead and get started.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next up is consider adopting the 2026 state legislative goals. I think city manager will comment on that.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have sent out these proposed goals to council, taken some feedback from council. This is the final product that was included in your agenda packet. That will be up for your consideration and hopeful adoption on Thursday evening. Happy to take any questions you may have about any of the items that were contained. Some of these goals were similar to what council has adopted in the past. There was some minor changes made, some grammatical, things that were corrected in the document that you have. But again, happy to answer any questions you may have. The goal of this, provided council does adopt it, would be for myself, the mayor, and any other council members that would like to perhaps ask our legislative delegation to meet with them and cover these items with them to make sure they have a copy in hand of what this council has said you think are the priorities for them to work on our behalf in Raleigh at the General Assembly. So with that, Mr. Mayor, happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, sir.
So I just want to commend that. It's one thing for us to pass it. The second is to communicate it to our legislators, that these are important to us. And I think the two of you can do it well. You may invite others to help you. But I think a face-to-face, these are our issues. I hope you take them seriously, would be very important to do.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? I think there are a number of other organizations throughout the year that reach out to the city and ask, what are your goals? How can we support you? And is it consistent with other organizations? So there are a great many benefits to this, I think. Okay, if there are no other comments, we move now to our consent agenda, which consists of quite a few items. Is there anything there that anybody needs further discussion or clarification on? Hearing none, we move to matters not on the agenda, which we will cover on Thursday evening. And so unless there is something that I may have missed, which is certainly a possibility, Mr. City Manager, we're on track, then at this time, I would entertain a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A4 in order to discuss the location or expansion of industries or other business in the area served by the public body. Okay, I heard a motion from Jennifer, a second from Councilman Sweat. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. We are now in closed session. Thank you.